Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name is Annie and I'm recording this from Surrey in the UK. Welcome to my world of crafting. I hope you like it here. This is my bi-weekly podcast where I talk about knitting, weaving, sewing and anything else that I've picked up, which is for me recently yarn dyeing as well. You can find me on Instagram as a_little_crafting and you can find me on Ravelry as Ankiwoo. It's the 3rd of April 2021 and in the UK we've just started easing from the lockdown over the winter, which means that we're now excitingly able to have people in our garden, which has been lovely. So yesterday we had a barbecue and we're hoping to be able to chill out a bit more with friends over this Easter weekend. So what have I actually been making recently? And I will mention that all the links to everything I talk about in this podcast will be down below so that you can go and have a look at what I've been making, both the patterns and also the yarn that I've been using. And there is what I would call a beast in the room instead of an elephant, although you can probably use that traditional phrasing as well. And that is that I have finished my Boho Mosaic cardigan by Irene Lynn. So I'll talk about the yarn first and kind of hold up my sleeve so that you can see. So I have knit this out of my all-time favourite Aran or worsted weight yarn, which is Dererum Natura Gilliatt. The blue colour, which is absolutely a beautiful blue, is Nuit. The white is Poivre Blanc, and then the grey is Goéland. And this cardigan overall took 500 grams of the blue and then kind of 50 to 60 grams of the grey and the white. I have yet to weigh the whole cardigan because I need a new battery for my bathroom scales and it's not going to cut it on a kitchen scale. So I will see how much it actually weighs at the point where I've got a new battery and I can do so. So that's the yarn and then I will talk a bit about the pattern. So I'm going to stand up for this bit and see how much I can fit in. So this pattern is knit from the top down. It's a raglan style cardigan and then it's got this lovely mosaic effect both on the sleeve and on the bottom of the cardigan. And this is mosaic colour work, which primarily involves effectively knitting as though you were knitting stripes. So you've got some stripe sections in here, but you then slip the stitches from the couple of rows before, which were from the previous colour, to create this kind of mosaic effect. This is all kind of garter stitch. So the sleeves, which are in the round, I did have to do a knit row and then a purl row for each of those. For the main body of the cardigan, which is this section here, as I was knitting back and forth, it just involved knitting on every row and slipping the stitches from the colour before where relevant. The mosaic knitting pattern itself is effectively the same on the sleeves and on the body, so they match up, and it's quite easy when you're changing rows to work out, okay, what at what points do I need to slip, because it's this V-shaped pattern on both the white sections and the grey sections, so you get an idea of how the pattern is shaped, which makes it quite easy to memorise. So that is a bit of that. I really love the effect of slip stitch colour work and I have used it in shawls as well, so I'm quite used to doing it, but I would recommend that you have a go even if you're a beginner knitter because it's very straightforward to do. I'll show you the inside. So it looks very much like stranded colour work. Ooh, excuse me. There you go. So it looks like stranded colour work, so it looks like you have floats on the inside. but it's much easier because you don't have to knit with 2 different colours on the same row. It's great. Then you've also got at the end this kind of broken rib detail for the sleeves, and the pattern calls for actually having tassels, but I've opted to not add those on, especially because the sleeves are fairly long for me anyway, so adding tassels would add even more fabric to the end. It has a shawl collar, so this goes all the way around and all the way to the bottom. And I have tied that shawl collar up with my lovely pin from my friend who is Circle and Dash, who creates jewellery and accessories using handmade paper that is then set into silver. So I got this lovely pin from her to match my cardigan for Christmas 2020, which was a really lovely gift, considering she also bought me the pattern for this cardigan as well. The shawl collar is a lot of garter stitch, but it's quite straightforward. Again, you're just knitting every row. There are some increases at the back, which I'll talk about in a second when I talk about what I thought of the finished garment. So I'm going to sit down again. So the pattern overall was really well written, and I really liked the diagrams that were given about the structure and the kind of construction of the garment, which was great. I knit a medium 1, but I think I made it a bit longer than the pattern suggested. If I was to make it again, I'd probably go for a smaller size, but I really wanted something that was nice and cozy and almost like a dressing gown as a cardigan, so kind of like a coatigan style. Kind of talking about the fit, so I had some trouble with the shawl collar. I'll show you what I mean. In fact, I might stand up and see. Yeah, so there you go. So one of the things that's been annoying since I finished it and blocked it is that the shawl collar still drops down further than the bottom of the other side. So this was happening when it was open as well, even more so. Because we've got increases on the back of the shawl collar, that means that it seems like there's more weight and more actual knitted rows in the shawl collar. So for me it's dropping below, and it could be that I just haven't blocked it well enough. So it might be that I need to stretch these sides out more to then line up with that. But that was the one thing that was a bit annoying at the end of finishing this one off. So I have opted to kind of pin my cardigan front so that it's a bit more even, as I think the fact that it creates more of a waterfall shape isn't really the look that I wanted out of this, because it's such a kimono style cardigan. I'll get down now very carefully. On the back you'll see that there's actually a bit of a gap between sort of the top of the shawl collar and the back of my head. Let me see if I can move my hair out the way. Yeah, so yeah, you can see that there's a bit of my t-shirt underneath. So it's very much kind of like quite an open back, which I think is because of the increases on the shawl collar, and that's absolutely fine, but I'd be concerned that, considering this is designed to be nice and warm, that my neck will probably get a bit exposed in the winter. So again, if I was to knit this again, I'd probably try and omit those increases to shorten the length of the shawl collar, and also prevent it from sort of dropping back so far. Well, I'm not sure how much that dropping down is affected by the overall shape of the cardigan or the collar itself. So yeah, if I was to make this again, I'd make a smaller size, see what it was like with the shawl collar slightly adjusted, and otherwise I have absolutely loved this project. And I'll just stand up again so that you can see. So I think it looks really nice. I mean, it's designed to be oversized. Let me show you the colourwork on the bottom again. So it's nice and baggy, but I think it's great for what I wanted from it. So yeah, I'm not sure what's happening here. I think I may need to just block it again and even out the stitches, because they're not supposed to be puckering in one place. I have to say I really liked the sleeve construction, again coming down off the sofa. So because you add some stitches under the arm here, you don't get the holes that you sometimes get in other raglan cardigans. I mean, there's a little bit of a gap there, but it's not really noticeable. And I do really love the garter ridges all the way down as well. So yeah, and it's incredibly warm. That's just one thing to point out as well. These sleeves are nice and straightforward to knit, but take a long time because you're effectively knitting a cowl. When you knit a sleeve, it is huge because it's not decreased at any point. So yeah, it does take a while, but I'd be tempted actually to see if I could adapt this colourwork pattern and just do a cowl that goes over my head and just sits around my neck. But yeah, this thing was absolutely huge to block as well. I had to use all my 4 blocking mats and lay it out somewhere in the house that wasn't actually going to be used, which was really, really tricky to find. It didn't take too long to dry, a couple of days, and yeah, and all of this colourwork stretched out nicely so that you can see it a bit more, because it was quite tight together given that it's garter stitch. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say about the cardigan at the moment, other than the fact that it is boiling hot and it's not a cold day today, I would say here. So I will probably be wearing this a lot more in the middle of winter. However, in the UK we are supposedly expecting snow next week, so that will be great if it's nice and cold and I can make the most of my really cozy kind of blanket cardigan. This is the biggest thing I have ever knit, by the way. I don't think there's anything bigger so far. Obviously I'm working on a blanket, so that will end up being bigger, but the amount of knitting and the size of this means that it took me 3 months to make, and it was a bit of a pain to block and wash as well because it hardly fit in the washing up bowl. So yeah, I am very happy with it. Now, I had a bit of a test this morning of how to actually fit it onto my shoulders, and I did eventually work out that the back had to be a bit lower than I expected because of the way that it's shaped overall. So yeah, highly recommend the pattern if you wanted to have a look, and I would be tempted to knit it again at some point, but maybe not this year. too much already. So I'll be moving on to other projects next. So let's talk about some other knitting, and I of course am endeavouring to knit 52 hats this year to donate to charity, and therefore I always have some hats. Last week, if you watched the episode, you will have seen that I started knitting the Mountaineer hat by Kentucky Knits, and this is the finished version here. So this is knit in Cascade 220 in the silver grey, and that's the Aran weight version. I knit, I think, the medium size, but it has come out really, really big. So the idea of this hat is that it stretches out and it looks a bit like mountains and then snow above the mountains, but that means that you have to kind of pull it out in order for it to really reveal the pattern. And as you can see, this one is huge. I'm not going to put it on because it will literally drown me as I have a really small head, but hopefully this can go to someone in need who has a larger head than me and my family. So there you go, that is the Cascade 220 Mountaineer. I liked this pattern a lot, and as a result of that I have decided to make another hat, and I started it and finished it last week, so lucky enough to see the finished result. So this one I actually knit this small, and I think that's a much better size for someone like me. and this one is knit in the same yarn as I've used for my cardigan, so Dererum Natura Gilliatt, in the Poivre colourway, which is unfortunately now discontinued, but they have replaced it with another one that I'll find the name for and pop in the description below. This one is much more my size, and you can easily see the pattern of the hat. So if I pop it on, oh yeah, oh, let's go like that, that might be better. So yeah, you can see the mountains, and it fits really nicely, and then you've got the little detail for the snow or the stars above that. And I love this colour as well, it's gorgeous. I can't actually remember what I used this yarn for to begin with, but it was leftovers. So yeah, absolutely love this pattern. I'll explain to you how it's done. It is a free pattern, but basically what you do is you do a twisted rib up to the kind of bottom point here, and then you start cabling, and it's just one stitch crossed over another, so you cable across, and then each row you sort of start moving it across, and then same on the other side, and you do the stockinette in between, so that it has this really clear effect of a kind of mountain region when you stretch out. Okay. So yeah, love this pattern, would definitely make it again. Like I said, I cast another one on almost immediately in a different yarn, in a different colour. And I'm sad to say that that is all I have done in terms of finished objects. Obviously I finished off my cardigan, which was a big feat in itself, and really wanted it done as I was so close, and just had to finish off a sleeve. So I don't have any more finished objects, but I do have a work in progress to show you. So of course it's another hat. I feel like everybody's going to get a bit bored of all the hats at some point, but what I will do is do a full episode when I've got about 20, and just go through what patterns I used and do a bit of a review. So this is some lovely yarn, which is the West Yorkshire Spinners Croft Shetland Tweed in the Eswick colourway, and I use this for my throwback cardigan, so it's leftovers again from that. What the hat that I'm knitting is the Simple Hat by Hannah Fettig, who is Knitbot, and it is from the Home and Away ebook. I bought this one to make the Georgetown cardigan, and this was effectively a bonus pattern because I bought the ebook, as there are several different cardigans I wanted to make, and this hat happened to be in it. But it's a really simple construction, so it's a fair amount of 1x1 rib and then stockinette and some decreases. But I really love the way that the decreases look in the hat pattern. So if I move over here, I will pop a picture just here of the finished hat and how it will look. I wanted to do a plain hat for this yarn because it's very busy yarn. As you can see, it's got pops of blue and green, and it's a very tweed effect yarn. But I think it'll look really lovely in a plain patterned hat. And in terms of works in progress, that is effectively it. So unfortunately I have not had a chance to work on anything else at the moment. I did a couple of rows on some socks, but nothing really to write home about in terms of the other projects I've been working on. So as that's all my works in progress, I wanted to talk about what I'm going to cast on next. And of course I finished a cardigan, which is a garment, so I need to cast on another one. And that is going to be the Ingalls sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And this is one that I bought the yarn for probably 2.5 years ago now. I bought some Madeline Tosh from the US in their Black Friday sale, and I really wasn't sure what to do with it to begin with, but I loved the colour of the yarn. So I eventually worked out that I wanted to do the Ingalls sweater, and that is because I saw a picture of Eliza Trudd's Christmas Ingalls on Ravelry, and that was in the same colourway that I got as the main colour for my Madeleine Tosh purchase. So let me show you the yarn. This is in my Antler and Acorn bag, which I got from my husband for Christmas, and I absolutely love it. It's a great size for sweaters, and the pattern is beautiful. The red on the top is absolutely my colour. So there we go, and it's got a lovely leather strap. So you can kind of use this as a handbag as well, although not that we've needed handbags recently. So yeah, so this is my Antler and Acorn hat, and it's got a lovely lion on the front. I love it. Yeah, and I love a good drawstring bag. So let me show you the yarn in the skein. So this is Madeleine Tosh DK Twist in the Red Woman colourway, and that is a Game of Thrones reference. And I love red as a colour in general, but the kind of shades and tones on this one are absolutely beautiful. A gorgeous burgundy. DK Twist is 100% merino, and obviously DK weight, so you get 250 yards or 229 meters in 100 grams. There you go. So I have already caked up some of this yarn, and you can really see the effect of it when I show it there. And I'm going to do the contrast colour work in just a simple cream, and I think this one is, let me double check, I believe this one is called, yeah, it's called Paper. And I've effectively used the same colours as Eliza did in her Ingalls sweater pattern. So a couple of things that I am going to do to adapt the Ingalls sweater is, I've read a lot of the comments on Ravelry, and they've suggested that it comes out very big. So therefore I'm going to knit the extra small for my size bust rather than the small, which would be what I'd normally go for. The other thing that I'm going to do is take out the lace sections. So there's a section just underneath the colour work that has sort of just lace parts that are just holes or yarn overs, and I had a look at the pattern and decided that it was absolutely doable to remove that. I'm not a big fan of just having, I guess it's not random, and it probably is quite pretty, but having lace as well as colour work, I just don't, it doesn't really appeal to me. I'm not a big fan of having anything that shows what's underneath your jumper, so I'm going to omit those and just make them standard stockinette. And basically I'm all ready to go, but I need to knit a swatch next. So that will be the next thing that I do. I need to knit a swatch of the colour work and work out how many needle sizes I have to go down, because I am a very loose knitter, to get the gauge and the fabric that I want. But I'm really excited to cast that on now, and I'll probably do that this evening whilst I'm on my craft call. Hopefully I will have finished my hat by then, so that I can give myself a break. I've also got Dungeons and Dragons this afternoon, so I'll get a bit done during that. There we go. So I will link to the pattern and also into Eliza Trudd's Christmas Ingalls, so you can see what it's likely to look like at the end of my finished knitted item. That is all the knitting content, but I have been dyeing some more yarn, obviously, because I can't stick to one craft, of course. So I wanted to do a few different colours and have a go at some new ones. So the first one I'm going to show you is a dark grey. Now I wanted to do a dark grey because I think it's the kind of colour that I don't have much of, and yet I think it goes quite well with some lighter colours, for example other hand-dyed yarn, maybe as a contrast. So this is my dark grey. Show you close up. go. So it has come out quite patchy, I would say. I used black and grey colours of jacquard acid dyes in here, but it does seem like certain parts of the yarn have taken the darker colour a bit more than the rest. So what I will probably do is swatch my larger skein, which I'll show you in a sec, and see how it actually comes out when you're knitting it. So the larger skein looks like this. So it is quite excessively tonal, I would say. Like there's possibly too much variation in there. So I'm going to swatch it and see how it comes out. If it doesn't come out that well, I will probably over dye it. So you can see there's a section there that's really light compared to the rest, but it might be quite nice. Let's see how it looks when it's knit up. The other thing that I wanted to do was to try a burnt orange again, and unfortunately it didn't succeed once again. This is going to be my my nemesis in terms of colourways, a colour that I really love but can't seem to dye. So I ended up with this lovely copper colour, which I do also really like, but let's see if I can get this to focus. Here we go. So yeah, it's copper really, but it is a really lovely shade, so I'm tempted to kind of have this in my library anyway. The other experimentation that I did was with different amounts of my gold colourway. So I did a bit of a fade, and that I ended up with these quite bright golds, and then these slightly darker ones, which I still think are really lovely. I probably prefer these actually. These are much more yellow, but I'm thinking I could do a fade in this colour. And then I did do one large skein of that, which I think looks great, and that's the gold colourway finished up on 75/25 merino nylon. Then finally I also played around with my Caribbean blue colour, and ended up with this lovely skein, which is blowing out a bit, but it's very, very turquoise and has a few different tones in it too. Probably see that a bit more in the mini skein actually. There you go. So I do love this colour. And then I just had some lighter versions just to soak up all of the turquoise, because it is a dye that tends to not soak up as much, and it's quite a strong dye as well. So I popped some minis in just to soak up a bit of the excess that was there. That's quite a lot of yarn dyeing that I've been doing. Before my battery runs out, I am just going to go over some acquisitions as well, because I have actually bought some yarn. So I recently got the Snefald shawl from Fibre Tales, who is Lega, and I wanted 4 colours of Knit by Numbers by John Arbon to knit that shawl out of. And what's really interesting with that shawl is that it's a stranded colourwork shawl, and then it is steeked like you would do a cardigan. So I thought that was a great way of getting the hang of steeking. So I have 4 colours. They are, you see, Knit by Numbers, so they just have numbers. This one is one of their new colourways. It is 128 DK, and it's this lovely raspberry colour. This green is number 45. This is a bit darker than I expected it to be, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to use this one in the end. I might buy a lighter version of this green to go with the pink. And then I've got a dark grey, which is number 3, and then a white for true contrast, which is number 55. And these will all go together, hopefully. I'd be interested to know what people think about that green. Is it too dark? Is it not really contrasty enough? I might also do the black and white photo test and see how that works together with the others. I am a mill member at John Arbon, so that means I get 10% discount on their website for all yarns, and that's a lifetime membership, so that doesn't expire or anything like that. And then there are also other perks. So for example, this colourway, which is new, the pink, sorry, was released early to mill members so that we could buy it first. There are also lots of mill member exclusives on their website, which means that you can get access to yarn that no one else has access to outside of the membership. They also do an open day in the summer, but obviously COVID allowing, so it hasn't gone ahead in 2020, but I think they'll hopefully redo it once this COVID situation is over. I'm excited to actually get a tour of the mill. Looking forward to it when it can actually happen safely. So yeah, I got these, but because I had a 10% discount, obviously I couldn't resist buying a little bit more. So the first other yarn that I bought was Harvest Hues Aran, and I've knit with Harvest Hues fingering previously. This is really just to make a hat or something like that out of, but I wanted to try it as well. This colour is Bracken, and it's obviously my kind of burnt orange colour, and it's a really pretty selection. So you can see there's pops of red in there for the way it's been spun. The yarn is made up of organically farmed Falklands merino and Devon Zwartblaze. I think that's how it's pronounced, and that means that you get this lovely kind of brownish undertone to the yarn, and I think it works really, really well. Really love it. So I couldn't help myself from actually buying a skein of this. And finally, I also saw that they had some Viola blended yarns. So Viola is a dyer, I believe, but the yarns that they have blended together are just merino wool. However, you get this really cool effect. So I'll show you this one. This is, which colour is this one? Unpredictable, and I'm hoping I can show you this really nicely. But basically it's kind of a creamy colour, but it's got little pops of yellow and some shades of sort of light, very light lavendery colour. So I thought that was really lovely, sort of blended that way. And then the other one I got is a burgundy colour, and that is Blackcurrant. And again, this is kind of quite a dark burgundy, but it's got red and then pops of black almost in there, which I thought were really lovely. This is it DK? Yes, it's DK weight yarn, so I think it's similar to the Knit by Numbers, but I thought it was nice to get some different yarn from John Arbon, as I have knit with Knit by Numbers and the Harvest Hues previously. So yeah, I thought those would go well together. There's a bit of a contrast. And that is everything I wanted to share this week. So thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe if you like this episode, and I will catch you again in a couple of weeks. Have a lovely crafty time. Bye.